back to the virtual window gallery artist talk series. I'm David Samus, and I curate this space along with Bart Hopkin and Kirk Pearson. As a result of San Francisco's shelter-in-place order, the window gallery is not currently holding physical exhibitions at our landmark space in the Center for New Music at the heart of San Francisco's Tenderloin. But today we will have Jon Raskin having a conversation with Mauro Ffortissimo about his recent oil paintings and scores. Jon Raskin's a composer and saxophonist with Rova Quartet, a creator and enthusiast of visual scores, and he will be talking to Mauro Ffortissimo, who's an Argentinian poet, painter, composer, performer, and an impresario of the annual flower piano events at San Francisco's Botanical Gardens, alongside the event co-founder Dean Mermel. He has a beautiful film, also by Dean Mermel, about his work called 12 Pianos, documenting an enchanting installation along the coast near his studio in Half Moon Bay, a preview of which can be seen at their website, sunsetpiano.com, where you can also find out more information about Flower Piano and other upcoming events. Stay safe and be well, and we look forward to sharing more new instruments with you in January when we will be presenting Synth in Place, folk electronics forged in quarantine, curated by our very own Kirk Pearson, and presented with Dogbotic Labs and supported by Thingamajigs. You can find out more about both of those organizations at dogbotic.com and thingamajigs.org. Thanks for joining us.
Hello.
Hi. Good morning.
Good morning.
Nice to meet you, finally.
Yes, likewise, through this device, but
Yeah.
do
Well,
this
the modern age.
Yeah. Mauro Ffortissimo here. I guess I don't know if you need to do an introduction or not.
Oh, yeah.
But
And I'm Jon Raskin, and this is in preparation for the opening of your gallery window at the Center for New Music in San Francisco.
yeah, we hanged out a couple of weeks ago, and what it is, I do a lot of notation writing, compositions, very, very hard to play. What I showed there at the center are latest work I did during this pandemic. One large one is called the Magnolia Symphony. It's about 8 feet by 10. I work on black canvas in this new set. And then I did 6 or 7 2x2 smaller and another 5x7. Anyhow, for many years I did that on paper. Then I moved to oils, which I done before, trying to capture the same kind of flowness of lines and dots. In a way, the notation will resemble a bit, and I show you in a second when I walk around the studio, a bit of Kandinsky work, his latest work mostly, in which somebody asked him and he said, look, I work with lines and dots. And in a funny way, music notation is a lot of that, lines and dots.
Yeah. It's interesting how Kandinsky pulled in influences from all the other arts into his paintings. And
I love his work. And
yeah, and I see a parallel in that where you really take all the elements of music and the instruments themselves and it reflects in your artwork, you know, and your
yeah, to
sculptures.
me sometimes it's sort of like a compliment when somebody says, "Hey, it looks like Kandinsky." Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I've been very influenced by Point to Line to Plane, that book of
yeah.
his about, excellent.
You know, finding the next, you know, like those that are not musicians, they look at it and I think, you know, you could play those. Musicians know that you can actually play them. A lot of them are just a visual interpretation of sounds. When I do want to write, you know, like sometimes I do a show with a friend, a cello player or another
Mm-hmm.
piano player, uh, and I write a piece that it can be played, not note by note, but you understand the concept of the piece, the structure. You know, you
Mm-hmm.
understand the loud volumes and the pianissimo volumes and many notes or less notes. So, because I play the piano without keys, I play the keyboard piano too, but I play the inside, the hands directly on the strings,
Mm-hmm.
and so. You know, I could do sounds that they're really in a way polyphonics. There's a lot of sounds that you cannot do just with the keyboard piano.
Mm-hmm.
And the notation kind of helps visually. If you're looking at a piece and you hear the sounds behind and you cannot figure what instrument is making it, um, I think they help,
Yeah,
especially with musicians that could also play avant-garde or could play
yeah,
improvisation and jazz and so
yeah.
forth.
I've always been fascinated by the kind of mental space that you get by looking at visuals and paintings and your understanding of what's going on, and then the the difference of when you're listening and you're getting the information through your ears.
Mhm. Only,
And it's
yeah.
fascinating to me to kind of go back and be, graphic scores or scores that allow both things to take place and inform how you're looking and in how you're hearing. So, and your work seems to have a lot of that as a basis for it, because
Yeah,
it's combining these two senses,
um, yes, I do that. I mean, it's just I always painted, and I was a bit more abstract years ago, and then I started with. I always did notation, like an exercise in a way, and then
Mm-hmm.
it kind of took off from whatever reason, and I'm really comfortable in whatever media now doing that because you almost can't make any mistakes. If I throw an extra drop, you know, when I'm doing the
Mm-hmm.
notes, it's another note. Um, and since, of course, doesn't have any bars or tempo that you had to, hey,
Mm-hmm.
one more note in this bar, and it wouldn't work. It's really a nice kind of feeling of freedom.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you take that to the instrument, it's kind of the same thing. You know, I studied classical piano for many years and I could never improvise. It could be, I'm not good at jazz. It's not in my background. I was born in
Mm-hmm.
Argentina. We have some tango,
Mm-hmm.
which sometimes will sound like jazz, but unlike jazz, every note is written. So you
Mm-hmm.
play the score. Um, and I was a bit frustrated as a creative person. Damn, you know, 10 years on the piano, and I cannot improvise. It's just something that I couldn't do with the keyboard, with the 12 tone scale.
Mm-hmm.
Removing that, what it did to me, kind of, it's almost like, you know, like they say, and I think in Zen Buddhism, you learn everything and you let go of everything and
Mm-hmm.
you start fresh. So that's what the instrument did, and it was kind of it happened just kind of, I say by coincidence, but I was cleaning a piano once 35 years ago in San Francisco, and I was sitting in the bed with the keys rest, and I had a phone on tap making a phone call and started plucking the strings, and I never put it back, you know. And from them were years of exploration
Oh.
with the inside of pianos and with different tools, you know. People think that I'm always improvising, but I'm not. I write things and I always know what I'm playing. Now the difference is always sounds different. Um, why? Because you know there are multi tones or vibrations that happen by the strings being open. That I'm not really playing that note, but it makes another sound happen, and
Mm-hmm.
then you know I go about. So that was a very free, kind of liberating thing that allows me as a back in the days we used to be called sound sculptors.
Yeah.
Remember?
Yeah.
To keep experiencing with music, and then through the years I developed tools. I have I show you later fish lines and chord batons and hollow tubes and brass things that basically allow me to really make music. And when I play with other musicians, we, that the piano is not any other weird tune than just as a piano tune. So you could play with a keyboard piano alone. So I don't alter the tuning of the piano.
Right. So you expanded your sound palette, much
very
in
much
a way you kind of approach probably your painting too, right? Must be some,
the thing with sounds that that I'm always interested in, always have been for whatever reason, in microtonalities. Whereas like I play once in Beijing and they really dug the thing even more than here, because here if you're a musician you kind of it's interesting to some, to others it sounds too odd. But when you hear some Chinese music that sounds kind of high tone, high pitch. They do, even in Indian music, they have microtonalities between the do and the do sostenido, the sharp do. Yeah. There is another quarter tone or fifth tone. And so I always, somehow I thought that we in the Western world, a couple of thousand years, we were a bit behind with sounds. And I think that we've always been trying with the piano, which to me is one of the most sophisticated instruments of the Western invention, so to speak.
Yeah, the 12 tempo music,
but it's still lacking to the 12-tone scale. And when you remove that, it's that's why I call it piano liberated, liberado. You liberate yourself from the 12-tone scales and see how far you could go with that. It's funny, sometimes kids are around and some of them really have a big smile and joyful, and some of us, they run away to their mom. I'm talking young kids, 3 or 4, they just, some of the sounds are too, they're not too comfortable with. It's funny with people too.
Yeah. Well,
what kind of music do you play? You know how it is here in the West. We always need to label everything. And, so, well, I play music. I try to always somehow mimic, like in India, if it's 11 o'clock now, well, you play in B flat. You can, every hour of the day has
right.
You can be, if you want to reach the higher strata with music, you have to play in a certain. So I was always impressed.
That kind of leads me into another aspect of your music. It's kind of like you're playing to play a music at a certain time is to say, where am I? I'm in a time and a place, and and here I am, and I'm going to try to capture this. And if you kind of expand that further, it kind of gets into another fascinating part of your work is how you incorporate the social. You bring this aesthetic into the world and interact with people in unusual places.
That happened. I always kind of like to play outdoors, and I did a show. I know 2013 now, seems so long ago, by taking a piano by the Bluffs here in Half Bay, where my studio is, and it attracted a lot of attention. But I think it did just because of technology and cell phones, because it's been done a million times. Well, it's a bike path and it's a horse trail, it's a stake path. There are many things that converge in that corner, which also happened to be an old World War II battery. They had big cannons there with this foundation, which is still there, 360 degrees.
I'm familiar with that.
Looking for Japanese incoming, to come in. Right. So anyhow, I always thought, because I have a studio right across, to do something to change that energy. I couldn't imagine, 1940 or whatever, after Pearl Harbor, people would feel afraid to be here. And so, by what I was saying about technology, everybody went by with a cell phone, took a snap, and then one day there were 10 people, there's nobody there. And somebody asked me, who are you playing for? And so I'm playing for whales, because whales were going by. And it became a thing. And then the next day it's 100 people, the next day it's 1,000. They went crazy. So I got my 10 minutes of fame. And after that, I was invited to work in San Francisco through the Office of Economic Development. And after that, we hooked up. I don't know if you saw the film called 12 Pianos by
I did see that.
The Botanical Gardens, and I did an installation in San Mateo Coast from Pacifica to Santa Cruz, putting 12 pianos on the coast. And which got me in trouble with every agency you can imagine. State
Yeah, well,
Park.
that's that
It was kind of crazy.
that's actually fantastic to do a piece of art that gets that kind of response.
Yeah, yeah. It was
It's
really
kind of
like audience participation in many ways. Not
yeah,
only come and listen to it, but then the pianos were there for a good couple of weeks. Anybody could play.
yeah.
And, I kind of like that. It's funny. Even people that will feel a bit jaded. You go to somebody's house and your son or your daughter plays. Play a tune, and they feel, no, I don't want to play. Well, you take the piano out of the living room and you set it in another space, and people are a bit more less concerned how it sounds because a bird is going by, or a whale, or a sheep, or a bike, all these other accidental sounds that I think John Cage would love. You incorporate it, and you being there, and it's part of the experience. And I like that a lot, man. I remember when I took this piano out, which I never played by the ocean, and it was 10 o'clock at night because I did it when the state park rangers went home and they didn't see me. But to hear the waves crashing, I sat there with a friend of mine and said, "Oh, this is really." So you could play alone with that.
Yeah.
Not only as sounds, but energy. And that's something that, anyhow, I dig that a lot, and I continue doing. I just took a piano down the trail in a hidden corner down by Half Moon Bay, and it's been there for like a month. It's hidden behind trees, so nobody could see it, nobody can complain. And it's gorgeous. So we look in the ocean, and you sit there, and the sun is coming down, beautiful sunset, and I recommend it to everybody. However, it's not easy to
I
move
completely
a
agree
piano.
with that. That's how that was my introduction to improvisation.
Yeah, just playing
I
outdoors.
kind of a similar story. I was,
Huh?
I was in high school and I could play alto sax as a freshman, so they put me in the jazz band, and at a certain point they say, "Well, play a solo," and you go, "What? What do you mean?" you know, and so I struggled to kind of understand how to play a jazz solo. But at a certain point, I just said, I'm just going to go try to improvise, and so I would go out in nature and I would go out and play and listen to the birds and the trees and go hike up a river or just go different places and say, "Oh, I'm just going to play with what's around here."
This is with winds, with the saxophone.
Yeah, I play saxophone, so.
Yeah, and I think nowadays with all these COVID things, winds cannot play anywhere, and at least you go in nature and blow, man, away from everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I also find it fascinating that you do that with pianos, because the piano was the center of music making in many homes in America. There were almost anybody that could afford a piano would have a piano, and people
Well, and at
would
one
play.
point, they were so mass produced, like in 1880, 1890, turn of the century. In the northeast of the United States, there were about over 550 piano makers. In Manhattan, in New York alone, there were over 150 people making pianos, sometimes in the garage, and they were all made by hand, So to me, that was always fascinating because there's only 3 or 4 left. At one point, there were player pianos. This is before the radio, player piano. So even if you didn't play, you had a piano in your house. You get some rolls, and whoa, there's a party.
You can have
So
fast
every house
volume
had a
music in your
piano.
house.
Yeah. I even have some rolls recorded by Rachmaninoff, actually. You get to hear the guy playing. And there are 2 kinds of rolls. They are play pianos and reproduction. It's called reproductive, I think so. And the play pianos, you could adjust a bit of the tempo and then and the others is an actual, it will replay actually what the composer, there is some of Gershwin, so they are sitting at the piano, they recorded for a different piano maker, and you could hear them play actually. So to me, it's always fascinating. And technology goes in a weird way. I have pianos that are 100 years old, and they work like a charm. And I don't think you could say that to many things that technology have built, not even a car. I mean, it's just it's kind of amazing to me. They were so well built, and that you could 100 years on the road, dust it off, tune it a bit, and there you go.
There you go again. Yeah. So I like the fact that then you're taking this thing and putting it in a public place, and then people want to play it. I think it's really interesting that they feel, oh yeah, here's a piano, I'm going to actually play it, and now there it's the center of attention again. It's the center of music making in a time where people are walking around with their own soundtracks on their heads.
it's interesting that, like you say, when you take, it creates a space. You put the piano in the middle of nowhere, and suddenly it becomes a space. And
Yeah.
I don't know if it's just, and people that don't even play piano, they feel like sitting on the instrument, and why not?
Why not? Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
I really, I mean, I think the biggest compliment like Dean and I have when we do these shows at the Botanical Garden is like, 1 year, and this mother comes with a 2-year-old kid, and they come the next year. I say, "Oh, my kid is starting classes. I'm so excited to be here." And that's a good thing. It's just
that is a good thing.
to excite somebody to learn an instrument and get them away from the computer a bit. I think I have a funny saying that all politicians should be musicians first, and then if you do a debate, they're going to sit and play, and they have to improvise, and that's how they win. See who could take
I'm
it
with
farther.
you, man. That's an excellent
More
suggestion.
harmonious.
Yeah, a better
And
world.
again,
for
Clinton
sure.
played the saxophone, and so a lot of things to be said. But would you like to see some notations? I have some
Absolutely.
that
Let's see your studio. Yeah.
Let's just let me show you the studio bit, and then we go to some notation.
Great.
This is an old barn remodeled. It's an 1880 dairy barn, and I want to start here where I do some walls. But now I have a set of. Can you see? Can you see closer here? I do in white paper and black paper, and I use Sumi ink for the blacks, and I use wash, which is a bit more opaque for the notes when I do black paper, and then watercolors. And so let's just take a little whack, and you see some of these. And this is like we were saying about the Kandinsky effect in a way. And sometimes it looks so beautiful without the lines that I just stop there, So this is lead pencil, and by the way, if you see the lines apart, what I do, I tape 5 pens to do lines together, or 5 sometimes graphite, and that's something that Stravinsky invented. Back in the days when, after the Russian Revolution, he couldn't get sheet music blank to write his music, and it would take forever to do 5 lines. So he invented a pen, which I would love to find, in which with one stroke, you do the 5 lines. And that gave me the idea to sometimes I also have, and I show you later, 5 brushes together so I can do the lines. But let's keep walking around, see some of these. I have hundreds of these literally. And sometimes people want to buy one and say, those prints, no, they're not prints. Each one is an original painting. And then let's see the studio a bit more. I'm taking to walk around. You with me? This is my girlfriend Electra doing the camera work. That's a large one that I did at the. See, you can show it a bit. Maybe come in the front a bit. It's about 16 feet. I did it at the UN Plus. I had a piano there for 3 years on Market and 10, and so I did that where some other people were playing. I did a lot of what you call it active painting or whatever, like people would play, and I kind of interpret the notes with notation. But here, let's just go down here a bit. I'll show a bit of this. See what I say, the 5 here, or 5 brushes together. So then here, look down here, baby. No, here, on the paper. I gotta go closer. Well, you can see it. But you do the lines by one stroke, that's the thing. And sometimes I just get the graphite only in my hands. Like that. Then you get 4 lines. 5 lines. Come this way some more. This is the piano event that I did a while back, and this is the remaining of the piano, which is set on fire. You saw it in the film. It's a sculpture now. I did a tribute to Louise Nevelson, which is an American sculptor back in the days that worked with a lot of charred wood. She did these amazing installations with burned wood, mobiles. But here you'll see I do sculptures with piano parts, and around the corner, I have a shop with, 20, 30, 40 pianos, so taken apart down to the screw. So whenever I make a sculpture, it's done only with piano parts, even the screws, everything I use, I don't bring another. It's kind of to limit myself. It's to stop, otherwise it's endless. And whatever I make is, to me, it's art, and it's non-functional in the sense people ask me, can you make a bar? And it's, no, I don't do any of that. What I do is art. You buy it, and the value has is intrinsic. It's as a creative energy, not because you're going to use it as a shelf and so forth. You come this way, I'll show you more. I do a lot of keys and wavy shapes, just because to me they're a bit more lyric. And then I got pianos on top of pianos. I got so many pianos. That's like a view of the whole studio. And then we're gonna get by the open pianos here, and I show you how that works. Yeah, that's much better. I don't do. I never use electronics because they're not fun. You open a little keyboard and there's nothing to it. And I always had this thing about, when you play electric things, you have to apply yourself to another source. And I always felt that with acoustic instruments, you kind of plug it to your heart. It's a different vibration. I do sometimes use a looping pedal, which allows me to, you do one thing, you let go of that, repeat it, and do something like that. I kind of like this. So that's a whole open piano. The keys will be here, the action mechanism will be here, so it's all gone. And one of the key ingredients is violin rosin, which I buy a lot, and I powder in my fingers. And this allows me to bow the strings. And I usually start with a bass note. Can you hear this? And then here I have fretted. That's an overtone there, see? And here I have brass hollow tubes. I could go on forever.
That's beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah. But fish lines is a 60-pound fish line. Hollow brass tubes. What else? And you know what I do here? I write color coded notes. So red goes with red, blah, blah, blah. And I also mark notes here. So I could play that in a certain harmony, and then if I don't want to play on that, I could choose the next note to the left or to the right. There's a whole other harmonious thing. You can't see the colors here, but they're all there. It's okay. And these are conductor batons that I make myself. Why? Because they used to make them in Switzerland, fiberglass, and they make them out of wood. They use them like that. But I need this flexibility, So this is the tip of a fish line, a fish bowl. I buy them in a garage sale, $5, and they cut the tip, and this is a champagne cork.
Right.
And that's actually a dear friend of mine gave me that for Christmas many years ago, and after that, I'm making myself. And then you can do a lot of gamelan sounds,
Mm-hmm.
I do have contact mics built here, so when I play, it's a larger audience, I amplify it a bit.
Oh, so you're amplifying the soundboard itself.
Yeah, because if you're not, these contact mics that you use on a guitar, so it's so close to the strings that if you're not close within 10 feet here, a lot of the nuances and the soft things that I do, you just won't hear them. So I amplify it, and the amplification, you lose a bit of quality, but at least you get to hear it. That's
So how are those harmonic tubes attached? Are they attached to the string?
attached. It's just like that. And there's a trick to play them. If you pull them out like that, they come right out. So I move it to the right, you lock them in place, and then as you go up and down, you get different notes.
By the length of the tube changes the pitch?
The diameter.
The diameter, okay.
And then also where you stick it in between the strings, yeah? And I guess I call this my well sounds. I took not this piano, another one I have around the corner, a 7-foot grand, to play with a boat. We went to play for whales, and I had the speakers. They were in the hall. It was a steel boat, a big fishing boat, 80 feet, and so I was playing there, and the speakers would just vibrate, like we guessed, But yeah, whales came in 5 hours, jumping up and down, and it was just fascinating. They would come close to the boat and blow air. And I remember once I was with a friend of mine, Alison Lovejoy, and I was doing something with his notes and a note like that. And the blowhorn, what do you call that? Blowhole, the sound was the same note, man. They were playing. It was goosebumps. Wow, check that out. So that was beautiful. That was just an interesting, I don't think the whale was trying to play with us, but there is something about, was a guy from Hawaii that did that, play with dolphins and whales for many years. That's actually against the law to go and play music for whales.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
I didn't know that people tried it enough that they had to outlaw it.
Yeah. Well, I don't know exactly what's the reason. I think at one point, this is back in the 60s, was it John Lilly, the guy that was doing, I think so.
Oh, yeah.
But I think the Navy, they were doing some experiments with the sonar of whales. And it's just like the same. Remember that guy, Leon Theremin, that invented the theremin back in the 1910 or so, and then the Russians thought they could use it as a weapon, and they came over and they kidnapped the guy, took him back to Russia. Anyhow, something to that extent, that they didn't want anybody to be interfering with their research, and it stays in the books. It's just against the law to go and play music for whales. Go figure that one out. Yeah, it's a new thing. But so this is the piano liberato, and I play a lot with dear friends, with Cash Killian, a cello player.
Yeah,
he also plays the Serengi. Yeah. The Serengi has 68 strings, and it's quite interesting when we get together and get something going with that, which I think is one of the most sophisticated of the Indian instruments. Serengi is like a sitar with a shorter neck, not a sitar, but. So that's exciting, and then with Electra we're doing some classical things. She's an amazing classical player. She will play some Beethoven or Chopin or something, and I try to go behind and mess her up, take it to a new level. Yeah. Should we go back to the table and chit chat a bit more?
Yeah, let's go back.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah, I'll tell you one more thing here you might like to see. Well, see, some of the notation, you can show them that. Let's stay there. Some of the notation like that is obviously you can play, but it's just a visual. They're just it's like art. And then this is the only piece I ever done that is functional. See if you can see it. It's a piano table.
I love that.
Yeah, I have 4 or 5 people ask me all the time. I said, look, I made one for me. Very easy, 3 legs, screw in the bottom, and they're kind of cool.
Yeah. I'll have to be on the lookout for a piano top now.
I remember seeing a thing I read in the New York Times, this is 3 or 4 years ago, a piano company, moving company, that they had a truckload, like 7, 8 pianos, and they went to the dump. Man, they were throwing the whole thing away. I always thought that should be against the law because there's so many things you could do with the lumber, with the steel, with the strings, with the hammers. A lot of them even ivories, real ivories. I have so many ivories.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But going back to the center, the show there, yeah, unfortunately, we can't do anything. The last time I did something there, I was able to take this piano and I played there with their piano and this, and it was maybe next year we could do something. And yeah, something more like with audience.
Yeah, with audience, absolutely. We're all waiting for that day. But
I know.
they're going to they're going to reveal your work there, though, right? So people can walk by the center and
Yeah,
see it.
you could actually go in. Well, now that we went into this thing again, but that was a month ago. And I think you still could go in 2, 3 people at a time, and well, you could see from the outside because it's in the window gallery. But have you been to the center lately?
No, I haven't been. Yeah,
Yeah,
I live in Sacramento, so it's a.
Oh,
it's,
okay, okay. Yeah,
I mean, the
yeah,
center is, doing some great things. I mean, it's during the day, it's a relief center for the people of the Tenderloin,
yes,
and
yes, yes.
then
Yeah,
they've opened it up so that musicians can go there when they can sign up and
take time in
do a
there.
show there or practice there.
Yeah, yeah.
Which is,
No, it's great. It's great. I mean, I love the place. I used to have a studio around the corner on 6 on Market, old abandoned building that they let me use for 2, 3 years, and it was great. And we just wheel a piano around, and that's how we did those shows at the UN Plaza. I just wheel a grand piano. I had it on these platforms. They were 5 by 8. We just wheel a grand piano. Thank God they did those handicap access in the corners, so it was just enough to go in and out. You had to hit it right.
yeah.
And yeah, but we were playing there often, mostly for homeless, man. That's the honest truth. I mean, there were people hanging there, and not many. You'd be surprised. It's right across the Twitter building, and I actually had an upright piano that had you could tweet a few sentences, and it would transform. I had these Duino controllers, a whole bar where the hammers will go, and the only sound they will make was just a hitting or a plaque. But it's kind of fun. Somebody tweeting something from Italy, and it will do some sounds, and I will play along. And yeah, but you think these techie guys, nobody will show up, man. In San Francisco during the heydays of technology and all that, which is still going on. They seem not to be interested in anything unless
It's an insular world.
yeah.
Yeah, I worked for many years near where you put that installation with the pianos on the outside of the building. So I saw that going up.
Oh yeah.
So I thought you should talk a little bit about Caruso.
Well, a funny thing is, it's not my installation. It's Brian Goggin, but I work with him on that, and which is right there across the Twitter building, 9th and Market, Caruso's Dream. And if you go by there when the sun kind of comes down, we recorded like I think 25 songs of Caruso. And if there's a radio station, I think it's 90.9. I can't remember something number, but if you go by with a radio, the inside of pianos have lights that they shimmer up and down with Caruso's voice singing up and down. What I did with Brian collaborating and Dorca King, for the opening, we were able to close the street for a few hours, I don't know, 6 hours or so. That took a bit of money. And I rolled 12 grand pianos. I used to have them. Do you remember the defenestration building on Howard and 6th?
Absolutely, yeah.
Brian Gong installation that was supposed to last a semester, where it lasted 18 years. And for 3 years, I had a studio in there. And we had these amazing underground shows, and it was just amazing. Everybody would come. And I had 12, more than 12, but I had 12 grand pianos there. And for the opening of that, we wheeled them down Mission Street. And it was funny because at one point there is a cop coming, and he saw that, 12 pianos, 50 people dressed in costumes. Well, he didn't try to stop any of that, but he went ahead and kind of control the traffic for us. And we turned around on 9th and display the pianos kind of like in a fan thing, in a semicircle. And then, it's a whole show, opera singers and 12 piano players in front of us. And I conducted kind of like a make-believe conducting, because the musicians weren't even looking at me, but I would move my hands. And at one point, there were aerialists coming from the 40th floor, from the ceiling, hanging down to unveil the pianos. And that was a great, great gig, great times. Brian Goggin worked like a year and a half to make that happen. Those pianos are hanging on, they are bolted to the main steel frame of the building. When they had when you do those big with pylons, then they had this huge 1.5 inch circle. There was 6 inches in diameter, 1.5 inches steel welded, and the lady that was tied with ropes. It looks like it's just little poles holding, wrapped with rope, holding the pianos, but they're super welded there. When you think about it, we live in an earthquake zone, and you got glass and steel pianos hanging from the side of the building. That says a lot to our confidence with engineering. But they are there, and sometimes we go by there. I did a couple of events there. I had a piano across the street once, maybe a year down the road, and we invited some friends. I had it on a flatbed and just hang out there and play.
Wonderful.
That was a great installation.
Well, it's been wonderful talking with you. Thank you. It's been fascinating.
Likewise, John. Look forward to hear you play one of these days. When we do the Botanical Gardens, we have a corner called the Beat Corner. In that corner, I have 2 liberated pianos, a 9-feet grand, totally prepared with gamelan ball, and then and another real piano. And we basically, people come, and there's these big jams of something like Sun Ra and the Art Ensemble of Chicago mixed with a bit of John Cage and whatever could happen. It's poetry reading and sound. So hopefully this coming year we get to do it again in July. I need to. I'm broke, man.
Yeah.
Aren't we all?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Great. Good talking to you, man.
Yeah. Okay.
Hope to see you again soon. Okay.
Yeah.
Ciao. Namaste.
Ciao.